ESPN's John Clayton with Armen and Levack on 104.5 The Team. Professor, thanks for jumping on with us today. Tell us about Revis and where he's at with his injury.
He's still going through concussion protocol, and the fact that it's now in the second week, I guess, has to be concerning. But I tell you what, I counted up last week. There were 20 players on the injury report, 21 players with concussions, including Revis, and about 18 of them didn't play. And the more you see the concussion protocol, you almost figure a 7 to 10 day period when what it takes to try to get a player back, if not a little bit longer. So it looks like it's we'll see how it goes in the next 2 days. If he's cleared, remember, it's not a team thing; it's an independent doctor thing, determining whether he's going to be able to play or not. We'll see. But the fact that he hasn't been able to practice, that's not a good sign.
Is that bad news for the Jets all the way around? OBJ versus what? Antonio Cromartie?
Yeah, that would be bad, no doubt, because clearly Cromartie has struggled this year, and it's a deep group of corners. But of course, when you start taking a Hall of Fame cornerback like Revis out of there and start going to the next guy, that's not a good thing. So that could be very problematic. Even though Revis in the last couple weeks before the injury wasn't playing his best football.
Professor, I have a theory here. What if we go the Charles Woodson route and we move Revis over to safety? Is that a good idea, or am I overreacting to a couple down weeks?
Overreacting, because all you have to do is go back and look at the cornerbacks last year, and you tell me, would you rather have Revis at corner even if he's struggling slightly, or the two cornerbacks or three cornerbacks that were there last year? No, Revis is still one of the best cornerbacks in the game, and maybe it's just an injury, maybe it's just fatigue, whatever it is, he's still good. He's still going to be a Pro Bowl cornerback, even though maybe this hasn't been his best season.
ESPN's John Clayton with Armen and Levack, 104.5 The Team. Professor, what should we make of what Rex Ryan has done with the Bills so far in Buffalo?
A little disappointing. First off, I think they've done a nice job on offense in the sense that they've been able to break in Tyrod Taylor. He's been a pretty decent force. The one thing you wonder, is he going to be healthy enough? Because, he runs around like Russell Wilson, but he doesn't have the thick body that Russell Wilson has. And because of that, he's missed some games with injuries. Offensively, I think they've been pretty good. They've been able to compensate for some holes on the offensive line. Certainly, they're now got Sammy Watkins really cooking. But, on defense, it's been kind of disappointing. Disappointing in the sense that, he's trying to integrate his system, and I don't know if all the players are totally on board, because particularly you saw the complaints about how they were dropping into coverages, and, I thought that Rex did a nice job in going and staying with a 4-3, but they're really using a lot of 3-4 principles, and so that's kind of got the team thrown off a little bit, and they have not been as productive on defense as they have last year. And then when you think, I thought for talent, this is a 10-win team, and as long as the quarterback didn't screw it up, which he hasn't, they should be in the playoff hunt. Right now, the fact that they're not is disappointing.
When you look at the New York matchup this weekend, Jets-Giants, which one of those teams makes the playoffs?
Probably more the Giants than the Jets. You still kind of wonder where it's going to go in the AFC. Now, you kind of get the feeling that Pittsburgh somehow, some way is going to make it, despite their schedule. They've got some tough games coming up. But if they beat Indianapolis, do decently against Denver, I think they can get to 10 games. You can see the Giants aren't going to get to 10 wins. They can probably win the division at 8. So that is the benefit of being in the NFC East. And really, when you look at the big picture, the AFC East has taken somewhat advantage over the NFC East. So I would have to say that the Giants have the best chance because they're in the worst division.
ESPN's John Clayton. Does Peyton Manning play again for the Broncos?
Yeah, but it's no guarantee. Here's the scenario that they've got set up. Peyton needs time to heal. And until he heals, that means he can't play. And remember, the big thing with Peyton, he has to practice well mentally before he can go out there and play. So you can see the scenario going, let's say we're week 16 or 17. Let's say Peyton's now back at practice. They can take the tact. It's like, okay, they've already won the division. Why put Peyton out there in what could be meaningless games when they can still go with the younger guy, Brock Osweiler? Okay, so now you get into the playoffs and you watch practice, and then you make the determination. And remember, you got two quarterback guys watching, John Elway, the team president, and you also have Gary Kubiak, the head coach. So they can get a better gauge. Which of those two quarterbacks give them the better option? If they feel it's going to be Peyton Manning and his mind, they go with Peyton Manning. If they decide it's going to be Brock Osweiler and the system, they go with Brock Osweiler and the system. So that's going to be a decision based on how Peyton practices, and if he practices well, then he gets a chance to play. But that's not going to be for several weeks.
All right, a very different quarterback controversy in Cleveland. Adam Schefter wrote an article speculating that Johnny Manziel was not only done in Cleveland, he might very well be headed to Dallas. What are your thoughts on Manziel in Cleveland?
We're both on the same page in that regard, because I think you can see now it still comes down to who's going to be making the decisions in Cleveland. Is it going to be a new general manager, a new coach, or both? Most likely a new general manager, a new coach, and both. So you figure that if they consider Johnny Manziel to be a distraction and they're in a position to take a quarterback in the draft, they'll do that. And you can anticipate that Jerry Jones, who likes Johnny Manziel, would like to get a young quarterback that they can groom to be a backup, because you saw how bad the backup situation was at 0-7, and Jerry Jones would consider Johnny Manziel an upgrade. I can see him offering a 7th or a 6th round pick. That's about all they're going to get, because not a lot of teams are going to be bidding for Johnny Manziel based on what we've seen happen over the course of the last 2 years. So I can see a scenario if they get new management, comes in and says, okay, 6th round pick, we'll take it.
ESPN's John Clayton with Armen and Levack. This is great stuff. John, what letter grade do you give NFL referees this year?
C-, and that's because I think the people who are officiating the game are good. I think they've been tied up with too much confusion, and then, of course, they're a victim of HDTV. And what I say in that, in fact, they even brought this up in the meeting, you as a fan can watch a game on television and sometimes get a better view of what's going on than what you can see the officials doing, because they don't have the ability to replay, they don't have HDTV, and they don't have some of the great camera angles that are there. They basically have to kind of fend for themselves. And what's happened this year, there's such a new emphasis on trying to come in and look at and worry about what the officials back in New York are going to do and try to penalize them. So now you've got indecision, you've got all this consternation, you get more meetings, and you get worse calls. So what they're going to have to do is, from the league office standpoint, go through, see what they can, make it easier for the officials, rewrite some of the rules to make it easier, get rid of some of the silly phrasing in the catch rules, like planting your legs down and trying to establish yourself on a runner when you're just trying to be a pass catcher. Those things have to go. And I think that make an effort to do it, but they've got to do a lot of work here, because this has been a bad season.
Professor, when you look at the issues with the NFL's concussion protocol, Big Ben self-reports, that's what we've been waiting for, but then the NFLPA still not happy. Where do you think we're at with the concussion protocol?
At the very beginning, and sometimes at 3 in the morning I actually watch weird TV. So I was actually watching the Charlie Rose show, and they had experts from around the country talking concussions, some of the best and brightest on concussions. And they're at a loss to figure it out. We're really at the beginning stages of figuring, not just for football, but everything in general. Because what we're trying to figure out is brain trauma, and brain trauma in the sense that, how do you detect how bad it is? And there's no wand that you can go. There's no temperature thing that you can do and say, okay, here's the degree of damage done on this particular hit. So from the medical standpoint, we're at the very beginning. And so what's happening now is there's a lot of criticism of what should and shouldn't be done when nobody's figured it out yet. But in the case of Ben Roethlisberger, it was perfect. That's exactly how it's supposed to go. He has migraines. He got probably on a hit by Michael Bennett. He goes to the doctor and says, I don't feel right. So next thing you know, he's in concussion protocol. So he does radio on Tuesday morning. Hey, I feel great. I'm cleared to practice. Well, that doesn't mean you're cleared protocol. A lot of players right now are playing that haven't cleared practice. I mean, they're practicing, but they haven't cleared protocol. So he didn't understand that. And also, too, Big Ben's not a medical guy. I mean, when he says, well, I got a migraine, but it's not a brain injury. Well, where do you get the migraine from? Your foot?
ESPN's John Clayton with Armen and Levack. John, when it's all said and done, who's playing in L.A.?
I think right now, initially I thought it was going to be the offer that Stan Kroenke made to probably the Chargers. Now I'm getting the feeling the sentiment really goes to Carson. And that means the Raiders and the Chargers moving out, because they've got a lot of ammunition and they've got a lot of votes. Do they have 24? No. But I think the fact that you saw Stan Kroenke make major concessions in the last couple of weeks, saying that he would share the stadium and share the revenue from the stadium, that's a major concession when he's put up so much money to try to get the stadium. And then he's actually starting to talk to some of the people in Missouri. So I think you can see right now the sentiment's going to be, and it looks like there'll be two teams. I'd say right now it's going to be the Chargers and the Raiders.
ESPN's John Clayton. And John, the most important question, what do you want for Christmas? What's on your wish list this year?
I tell you what. I just want to make sure that I can. I just need some more things on my database on figuring out some salary cap things. And so, what I need is all the incentives so I can just make sure I have those so my salary cap database balances out. How's that for a simple one?
Levack, can you work that out, please? Can you make that happen?
I don't
That's
think.
Too geeky.
No,
too geeky.
I don't think Watson from IBM can figure that out. So I'm sorry, Clayton. I think we have to say no to you on that one.
I know. It's a Christmas wish.
Yeah, that's true. That's how I preface it. At Clayton ESPN on Twitter. John Clayton, you're the best. Thank you.
All right, thanks.